Have you ever interacted with someone who just seemed to misunderstand your body cues, your facial expression, even the words coming out of your mouth? Like, they just didn't seem to understand. They didn't get it. Or maybe you've been around a person and you've observed them interact with other people, and maybe you've seen, like, that seems a little rude. They are not getting the cues. They're missing all of the social cues. Have you ever experienced that? Well, if you have, today's podcast, Emotional Intelligence, might provide a little more insight to you. Today, Emotional Intelligence podcast is presented to you by Tri-County Schools Insurance Group and Anthem EAP. And my name is Miranda Dennis, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And believe me, when I tell you emotional intelligence and anything related to emotions is my most favorite thing to talk about. Why? Because we all have emotions. And without emotional intelligence, it's really difficult to navigate relationships because they're going to probably falter or even fail because we're going to be that person that's missing the cues, communicating, but not getting across what we're really wanting to say. So today, I have a lot to cover and a lot of information. So I hope you have something to take notes on because you're going to want to have some really good top takeaways from today. But let's start with, what is emotional intelligence not? Because we hear that word. When you hear that word, maybe you think about, oh, it means you have a high IQ. Actually, that's not what emotional intelligence is all about. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's not about manipulating or controlling other people's emotions. Nope. What emotional intelligence is really understanding your own emotions. Treating other people well. Being able to be appropriate in those social situations. Picking up other people's facial cues, body cues, and understanding how to respond and react. But in order to have emotional intelligence, you need to know a little bit more about emotions. And I'm going to say I am Marsha Linehan DBT trained. So for us and my purposes today, and there's other ways to think about emotions, but I want to teach you about the 8 primary emotions. Now, when we think about primary emotions, these are emotions that we are born with. No one taught them to you. You do not even need language. You can see these emotions play out in an infant. Even a newborn has the expressions of all of these 8 primary emotions because they are innate and we are born with them. So I want you to write them down. But before I give them to you, I want you to think about the movie Inside Out. That should give you a clue of some of the 8 primary emotions. Anger, sorrow, and joy. Those are typically the ones that people can guess right away. If you guess those, kudos to you. Can you guess the rest? Let's add fear, disgust, interest, and surprise. And last but not least, guilt. And for our purposes, guilt/shame. They're a little bit different, but they're kind of two sides of the same coin. Guilt slash shame. I did something that I know I'm not supposed to do or didn't want to do. Yes, I did it, right? Where shame is kind of condemning yourself and beating yourself up. Two sides of the same coin. But when you know your primary emotions, you are better able to understand how your body responds to the emotions. You can be honest about the emotions and you know how to express them better. Now, why am I saying primary emotions? Well, because there is a thing such as secondary emotions. So think about emotions like primary and secondary colors. Green is a secondary color because it is a combination of blue and yellow. So secondary emotions like anxiety is a combination of two or more primary emotions. I'll give you an example. Many times we think anxiety is a primary emotion. It isn't. But why do we need to know why it's not? Well, again, if we're talking about being honest, knowing your emotions, understanding how that emotion impacts your body, then you can better express it. You can better cope with the emotion. So anxiety actually could come from joy. It could come from anger. It could come from fear. It could come from surprise or interest. So if there's something that you're anxious about, let's say you are going to be publicly speaking about something that you're very, very interested in, then anxiety shows up. But if you only think it's out of fear, you won't be able to drum up enough of your interest to push through and do the thing you love doing. There is a brain body connection when we talk about emotions. So if you have distorted emotions, you're going to have distorted actions or responses or interactions with others. And you're going to have distorted thoughts because that emotional part of your brain is very, very strong. So if you think about your brain, we have the emotional side and we have like a logical side. And we don't want to be too far on either side. And we don't want to dismiss our emotions and we don't want to dismiss our logical thinking. We want to find a way to build the bridge between what am I feeling, which is why it's good to know your primary emotions and how to cope with them and how to express them so that you can turn on the logic side of your brain that says, let me put language to my experience to relate to people or to express something to people so I can reach my higher order thinking and not be as reactive. I want to teach you something else. When we talk about being aware of emotions, talk about understanding them, I want to teach you something called urge management. Urge management. What do you think that means? Well, when we are informed about our emotions and we're informed about our thoughts, sometimes we forget how big emotions can be. And we forget to get to that logical side because we just want to act now because all emotions are energy and they want you to respond to them. We don't always have to respond to the emotions that we are experiencing. We need to understand them, but we don't need to respond to them. So, urge management helps you to slow down that process between when something happens that you don't like, the emotion shows up, maybe it's anger, it shows up and it says, run away, hide, say something negative to that person. Well, then that only leads you to acting and behaving in ways that potentially lead you further away from the person you want to be. So, what is urge management? Well, when the urge to act on whatever the emotion is, it's about delaying. We live in a world where delayed gratification seems to have disappeared. However, people with emotional intelligence know how to activate and delay. So, the first step you want to do is you want to rate how intense is your urge as a result of whatever the emotion is. In this example, was that anger. So, how intense do I want to run away? How intense do I want to yell back? Is it at a 10 where I'm about to burst? Well, if it's anything over a 5, what you want to do, set a timer and take a break. 10, 15 minutes. During that timer, so setting a timer is number 2. Number 3 is, in the meantime, find a meaningful distraction. Not sitting and mulling over the mean things you want to say or how rude you felt that person was or I'm going to get them. No, 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 no. That isn't effective. That is not emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence says, I'm going to think about these emotions, I'm going to challenge them. But before I can even do that, I have to get my mind back into that place where my higher order thinking, building the bridge between what I'm feeling and the facts that I know so I can respond well. Mindfulness helps to do that. Being present, fully aware, and doing something that will take your mind off of the concern. Maybe it's a pleasant activity. Maybe you go for a walk. Maybe you watch a few funny social media clips. Do something. Do the opposite of what you feel your urge is to do. Challenge yourself and do the opposite of that. Then, once your timer has gone off, then you're going to go to step number 4. You're going to check back in to see how intense do I still feel like doing the thing I felt to do before I did my mindfulness, my pleasant activity, I took my break. So before, maybe your urge to run away, say something negative was at a 10. But you have found a way to get your body back into a relaxed space so your brain is relaxed enough so then you can speak and behave in a way that you're proud of. You still might feel like running away or saying something negative, but it's not at a 10. Maybe now it's at a 2. If it's at a 2, awesome. You have practiced and used emotional intelligence to manage urge and delay a negative reaction or response. If you're still at a 5 or above, set a timer again and do it all over. Why is this important? Why do we need to do this? Why do we need to know about managing emotions well? Well, this helps us to have empathy for others. It helps us to stay calm under pressure. It helps us to resolve conflict effectively. It helps us be better leaders, teammates, staff members, because when we take better care of our emotions take better care of us. And then we are acting and behaving in ways that we are proud of and not ashamed of. We're responding to facial cues and body cues because we know our primary emotions and we know how to share them and we know how it impacts our body. So please practice mindfulness. Label your emotions, listen actively to others, and be willing to continue to learn about emotions. Thank you for listening to this podcast on emotional intelligence. brought to you by TCSIG in partnership with Anthem EAP. Please reach out at any time, 800-999-7222 or www.anthemeap.com/TCSIG. Again, my name is Miranda Dennis, and it has been an absolute pleasure to be with you today to bring you just a few elements of emotional intelligence. Take care.